I stood before the room, feeling the weight of every stare as conversation died into silence. The purple bruise around my right eye throbbed with each heartbeat, a badge of shame I couldn't hide beneath makeup or dignity. 65 years of living, and this moment would define me in their eyes. My birthday cake waited on the table, 65 unlit candles standing like silent witnesses. The champagne glasses remained unfilled. The cheerful decorations my church friends had hung seemed to mock the tension filling my dining room. My son Kevin stood tall beside his wife Angela, her manicured hand resting possessively on his forearm. She wore that smile I had come to recognize over the past 3 years, thin, practiced, perfect for hiding the calculation behind her eyes. The diamond earrings I had given Kevin for their wedding anniversary sparkled from her ears. The golden necklace around her throat caught the light. My necklace. My mother's necklace. Kevin cleared his throat, his voice carrying across the silent room. My wife taught Mom some respect. The proud edge in his tone cut deeper than the bruise on my face. The woman who raised him, who sang away his nightmares, who worked 2 jobs after his father died, reduced to this moment of humiliation. Angela's smile widened slightly. Her fingers touched the golden chain at her neck. A subtle gesture, but one that sent pain through me, more acute than the throbbing around my eye. My brother James moved across the room, his retired detective's eyes missing nothing. He leaned in close to Kevin, whispering something that made my son's smile falter. The flash of doubt across Kevin's face gave me the first spark of hope I'd felt in months. I looked at Angela's fingers caressing my mother's necklace and remembered when everything began to change. The roses in my garden bloomed in defiance of the Chicago spring chill. I had planted them the year Michael died, turning grief into something beautiful. 5 years a widow, and sometimes I still reached for him across an empty bed. After 40 years teaching elementary school children, then serving as principal retirement should have felt like freedom. Instead, each quiet morning reminded me of my growing invisibility. The world moved differently around women past 60. We became furniture in the landscape of others' lives, useful when needed, forgotten when not. My home stood as my greatest achievement beyond motherhood. Every mortgage payment represented a sacrifice, the vacations not taken, the clothes not bought. Michael and I had celebrated the day we made that final payment, dancing in the kitchen like teenagers. This house held 40 years of memories within its walls, echoes of laughter from holidays past, whispers of late-night conversations, the height marks of Kevin's childhood penciled on the kitchen doorframe. Kevin had changed since marrying Angela. My thoughtful son, who called every Sunday, had become a distant man who checked his phone during our rare conversations. His eyes never quite met mine anymore. Angela had entered our lives like a beautiful storm, sweeping Kevin away from his previous marriage, leaving his ex-wife Catherine, and creating a fractured family with 12-year-old Marcus caught in the middle. Their daughter Lily, now 7, had Angela's beauty and Kevin's gentle eyes. My phone rang as I pruned the roses, Kevin's name lighting up the screen. "Mom, we'd love to have you for dinner tonight." His voice carried that forced cheerfulness that had become our new normal. Angela's making her famous pot roast. Angela had many qualities, but cooking had never been among them. The pot roast would be catered, the wine expensive, the conversation carefully steered. "I'd love to see you all," I said, meaning it despite my reservations. "Should I bring dessert?" "No need. No, we've got everything covered." Kevin had never refused my peach cobbler before, another small rejection that stung more than it should. The dinner unfolded exactly as I expected. The pot roast appeared professionally plated. Angela wore a black dress too formal for a family dinner. Kevin seemed nervous, his eyes darting between his wife and me. Marcus stayed silent, pushing food around his plate. Only Lily chattered naturally, showing me her artwork from school. After dinner, Angela poured 3 glasses of wine. "Gloria, Kevin and I have been talking about your situation." My situation, as though widowhood and retirement were a disease requiring intervention. "We're concerned about you living alone in that big house," she continued. "All those stairs, all that maintenance." I had climbed those stairs carrying groceries while working full-time and raising Kevin alone. The maintenance I handled with the help of a neighborhood teenager who mowed the lawn. I managed just fine. I said, keeping my voice pleasant. Kevin leaned forward. Mom, we've been thinking. Your house has appreciated considerably. If you sold it now, you could invest the money in my new design business. We could build something for the future, for the family. Angela nodded enthusiastically. We have the perfect solution. The guest apartment behind our house. It has its own entrance. You'd have privacy but be close enough that we could check on you. Check on me, as though I were already failing. I studied Kevin's face, noticing how he couldn't meet my eyes, a habit from childhood when he was hiding something. Angela watched me with the intensity of a predator tracking wounded prey. That's very thoughtful, I said carefully, but I'm not ready to leave my home. I need time to think about it. Angela's warmth vanished like a light switched off. Of course, Gloria. Take all the time you need. The chill in her voice belied her words. Kevin stared at his wine-glass shoulders, tense with disappointment or relief, I couldn't tell which. Later that night, as I prepared to leave, Marcus appeared beside me in the foyer. At 12, he already stood nearly at my shoulder, his eyes carrying a wisdom beyond his years. Grandma, can I come stay with you this weekend? Before I could answer, Angela appeared, one hand on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus has plans this weekend. School project. Maybe another time. Her fingers dug visibly into my grandson's shoulder. His face remained neutral, but I saw the slight flinch he tried to hide. That night alone in my house, filled with memories, I sat on the edge of my bed, holding the photograph of Michael and me on our wedding day. His kind eyes seemed to look back at me with concern. Something isn't right, I whispered to his image, and I don't know what to do. The answer came 3 days later when I visited the shopping mall to buy birthday cards. Angela's voice drifted from the food court, the familiar cadence catching my attention. I turned toward the sound and froze. Angela sat with an unfamiliar man, leaning close, her hand resting on his as they spoke. Michael, I'm telling you, we need to move faster. The old woman isn't going to give up that house willingly. The man, Michael, looked around cautiously before answering. Patience, Angel. These things take time. Elderly people resist change until they believe it's their idea. I'm sick of waiting. Kevin's business is failing. We need that money. And you'll get it. The man patted her hand. Just keep working on Kevin. Make him believe his mother needs supervision. Once you have guardianship, the rest is simple. I stepped behind a pillar, heart pounding. My hand clutched my chest as though I could physically hold myself together. The world tilted and narrowed around me, their voices fading beneath the rush of blood in my ears. Guardianship. They wanted control over me, over my home, my finances, my life. I made my way to a bench, legs trembling. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt truly afraid, not of dying, but of being erased while still breathing. James answered on the second ring. My brother had always been my protector from childhood through our difficult teenage years. After retiring from the police force, he had started a small private investigation business. I need help, I said simply. James arrived at my house an hour later. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten as children, where I'd graded papers for decades, where Michael and I had planned our future. Tell me everything, James said. I described the dinner, the pressure to sell my house, and the conversation I'd overheard. James listened without interruption, his detective's mind visibly processing each detail. This Michael, he said finally. Did you get a last name? No, but Angela called him by his first name, Michael, like my Michael. The coincidence felt like a desecration. James nodded. I'll look into both of them. In the meantime, start documenting everything, every conversation, every visit. Use your phone to record if you can do it legally. Check your financial statements, make sure nothing is missing. You believe me? The relief brought unexpected tears. James covered my hand with his. Gloria, you were the smartest girl in our school. You raised a son alone while earning your master's degree. You ran an entire school. If you think something's wrong, then something's wrong. That night, I began my journal. Each interaction with Kevin and Angela went into the leather-bound book Michael had given me for our last anniversary. Dates, times, exact words used. I changed the passwords on my bank accounts and moved important documents to a safe deposit box. Small acts of resistance against an invisible enemy. A week later, James called. His voice carried the professional distance he used when delivering difficult news. Angela's real name is Angela Desmond. Before Kevin, she was married to a Harold Fisher, 72 years old, wealthy investor. He died of a heart attack less than a year into their marriage. Left her everything. His children contested the will, claiming undue influence, but they lost. My stomach tightened. And this Michael Trent, financial advisor specializing in retirement planning. 3 complaints filed against him for unsuitable investment recommendations to elderly clients. Nothing stuck. He's good at staying just inside the law. I closed my eyes, pieces fitting together. They've done this before. It looks that way. Gloria, be careful. Don't confront them yet. We need more evidence. Over the next weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I noticed my bank statements moved from their usual place in my desk. My computer showed searches for signs of dementia and legal guardianship of parents that I hadn't performed. Small things, a misplaced key, rearranged medications, made me question my own memory until I began photographing rooms before I left the house. Marcus became my unexpected ally. He visited whenever he could escape Angela's watchful eye, usually after school before she returned from work. We would sit in my garden, his lanky frame folding onto the bench beside my roses. "She's different when Dad's not around," he confided one afternoon. "She tells me I'm not really part of the family, that I'm just taking up space and money." My heart ached for this child caught in adult machinations. "You are family, Marcus. Never doubt that." His eyes, so like Kevin's at that age, looked up at me. "She has a friend who visits when Dad works late, the man with the gray hair. They talk about you sometimes." Michael Trent. In my son's home with my son's wife plotting against me. "What do they say?" Marcus shrugged. "Mostly boring stuff about money and papers, but—" He hesitated. "You can tell me anything, Marcus." "She told him they need to get you declared incompetent. I looked it up. It means they think you're crazy." The words struck like physical blows. They planned to declare me incompetent, unable to manage my own affairs. A legal death, while my heart still beat. "Grandma, are you okay?" I forced a smile. "Yes, dear. Thank you for telling me." The next day, I discovered someone had accessed my retirement account online. The attempt failed due to my changed password, but the notification email chilled me. They were already moving beyond plans to action. I called my neighbor and friend, Evelyn Cooper. At 70, Evelyn had the energy of a woman decades younger. As a retired attorney, she had maintained connections throughout Chicago's legal community. "This is elder abuse," she said bluntly after hearing my story. "Financial exploitation. We need to get you legal protection before they can make their move." Evelyn introduced me to her daughter Sarah, a practicing attorney specializing in elder law. Sarah's office exuded competence with degrees on the wall and family photos on her desk. "Mrs. Washington, what you're describing follows a pattern we see too often. Family members, sometimes new spouses, isolate an older person, create doubt about their competence, then take control of their assets." "What can I do?" I asked. "First, we document your mental competence. I'll arrange for an independent evaluation with a geriatric specialist. Second, we update your legal documents power of attorney healthcare directive, naming someone you trust completely. Third, we gather evidence of their intentions." The plan gave me structure purpose. I was no longer merely reacting. For the first time since overhearing Angela's plans, I felt a measure of control returning. The psychological evaluation confirmed what I already knew. I was completely competent with cognitive function, above average for any age group. I named James as my power of attorney and healthcare proxy. Sarah helped me create a revocable trust for my assets with specific provisions preventing changes if I were under duress. As we built my legal fortress, Angela escalated her campaign. Small suggestions about my forgetfulness became outright accusations. Items disappeared from my house, my reading glasses, important mail, the spare key I kept hidden only to be found by Angela in places I would never put them. Kevin grew increasingly concerned about my episodes, as Angela called them. He began suggesting doctors, specialists in memory issues. Each conversation pushed the narrative that I was declining, that I needed supervision. Through it all, I documented everything. the journal Michael had given me filled with dates, incidents, witnesses. James installed discrete cameras in my living room and kitchen, capturing Angela's helpful visits where she moved items, then later discovered them misplaced. My world shrank as I fought this invisible war. Friends from church noticed my withdrawal, my reluctance to invite people to my home. Pastor Thomas visited one afternoon, his gentle presence a comfort in my kitchen. "Gloria, the congregation misses your sunshine. What's troubling you?" The dam broke. I told him everything: Angela's manipulation, Kevin's blindness, my fear of losing not just my home, but my autonomy. Pastor Thomas listened without judgment, his weathered hands folded on my kitchen table. "The Lord gives us trials to reveal our strength," he said finally, "and to show us who stands beside us when the storm comes. You are not alone in this fight." The church community became another layer of protection. Members dropped by regularly, creating witnesses to my daily life. Pastor Thomas organized a prayer circle that called me each evening, establishing a record of my coherent conversations. Then came the day Angela went too far. I had invited Kevin and his family for Sunday dinner, hoping to rebuild some connection with my increasingly distant son. Angela declined, claiming a headache, but sent Kevin with the children. For a few precious hours, we enjoyed a shadow of our former relationship. Kevin relaxed away from Angela's influence, laughing at old family stories, helping me serve the meal as he had done since childhood. As Kevin loaded the children into his car to leave, Marcus hung back, pressing something into my hand. "I found this in Mom's drawer," he whispered. "I think it's important." After they left, I examined what Marcus had given me, an old phone, presumably Angela's discarded model. My fingers trembled as I charged it and discovered it still worked. The text messages between Angela and Michael Trent laid out their entire plan. "Old lady still won't sell. Time for plan B. Guardianship papers ready. Need doctor to sign off. Found someone, Dr. Lieberman, specializes in geriatric psych. Will declare incompetence for $5,000. Once guardianship granted, we sell house, move her to facility. Use money for business. Kevin will never know." The evidence I needed delivered by the unlikeliest of allies, a 12-year-old boy with a conscience. I called James immediately. He arrived with Sarah Mitchell, who documented the phone and its contents. We knew confrontation was now inevitable. The question became when and how. 2 days later, Kevin called, his voice unusually cold. "Mom, we need to talk. Angela found her old phone missing. Did Marcus give it to you?" The moment had arrived sooner than expected. "Yes," I admitted. "Kevin, there are things you need to see. We're coming over. Now." They arrived 30 minutes later, Kevin's face thunderous, Angela's carefully composed. I had asked James to be present, but not visibly so. He waited in my guest room, the door cracked open. I sat at my kitchen table, the phone, my journal, and Sarah's business card arranged before me. Kevin paced while Angela stood perfectly still, her eyes cataloging the items on the table. "Mom, what's going on? Why would you take Angela's phone?" "I didn't take it. Marcus found it and thought I should see it." Angela's mask slipped momentarily. "That little sneak. I knew he was going through my things." I pushed the phone toward Kevin. "Read the messages between your wife and Michael Trent. See for yourself what they've been planning." Kevin looked confused. "Who's Michael Trent?" "Your wife's partner," I said simply. "The man she meets when you're working late." Angela's laugh sounded brittle. "Gloria, this is exactly what we've been worried about. These paranoid delusions, these accusations. Kevin, your mother is clearly not well." Kevin picked up the phone, his expression wary. Angela moved with surprising speed, grabbing his arm. "Don't bother. She's probably created fake messages somehow. You know how these old people get with technology, always clicking on scams." "Old people." The dismissal in her voice sparked something in me. I had tolerated the manipulation, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of my credibility, but I would not be erased. "Kevin," I said quietly, "I raised you to recognize truth when you hear it, to trust your instincts. What are they telling you now?" My son looked torn, caught between the woman he married and the woman who raised him. He pulled away from Angela and reached for the phone. "Kevin, don't you dare," Angela hissed. "She's trying to come between us. She's always been jealous of our relationship. She wants to control you like she always has." Kevin hesitated, his hand suspended above the phone. In that moment, I saw the battle within him, the desperate need to believe his life wasn't built on deception, fighting against the son who knew his mother's character. "Just read it," I said gently. "If I'm wrong, I'll apologize and seek help. I promise." Kevin picked up the phone. Angela's face transformed with rage. "You weak, pathetic man," she spat. "Just like your father. No wonder she controlled him too." Kevin flinched, but continued scrolling through messages. I watched the color drain from his face as he read conversation after conversation, plotting my financial exploitation. "Angela." His voice sounded small, bewildered. "What is this?" "It's nothing," she insisted. "Old texts taken out of context. Your mother is manipulating you." Kevin looked up from the phone, his eyes haunted. "You talked about declaring her incompetent, about selling her house against her will." "For her own good," Angela insisted. "She can't manage alone. We've both seen her forgetfulness, her confusion." "Her confusion that you created," I said quietly, "by moving things, hiding items, making me doubt myself." Kevin turned to me, pain etching lines around his mouth. "Mom, I never knew. I thought we were helping you." Angela's strategy shifted instantly. Tears filled her eyes. "Kevin, baby, you know I only want what's best for our family, for our future." Her hand drifted to her stomach in a protective gesture. "For our baby." The shock on Kevin's face told me this was news to him as well. "You're pregnant." Angela nodded, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. "I wanted to surprise you. I've been meeting with Michael about financial planning for our growing family. Your mother misunderstood everything." Kevin's resolution visibly wavered. A baby, the ultimate manipulation. I saw hope in Angela's eyes as Kevin stepped toward her. "Kevin," I said softly, "please just finish reading the messages." Angela's composure finally shattered. "Enough!" She lunged for the phone, but Kevin moved it away. Her hand swung out, connecting with my face with surprising force. The sound of the slap echoed in the kitchen. Pain bloomed around my eye as I staggered back. Kevin froze, shock written across his features. Angela stood with her hand still raised, surprise briefly replacing rage before calculation returned. "She attacked me," Angela said quickly. "I was defending myself." The absurdity of the claim that I at 65 had threatened this young woman might have been comical in other circumstances. Kevin looked between us, his expression hardening, but not toward Angela, toward me. "Mom, you've gone too far. Making up stories about my wife is bad enough, but attacking her when she's carrying my child, I never thought you'd stoop so low." My heart shattered. Despite everything, the evidence on the phone, the journal documenting Angela's manipulation, the physical reality of my bruised face, Kevin chose to believe Angela's lies. "You hit your own mother," James said, emerging from the guest room. "I saw the whole thing." Kevin turned, startled by my brother's appearance. "Uncle James, what are you doing here?" "Protecting my sister. Something you should be doing." James held up his phone. "I recorded everything. The conversation, the slap, all of it." Angela's face went blank, the calculating mind behind her eyes visibly reassessing the situation. Kevin looked lost, a man watching his reality crumble around him. "Get out of my house," I said quietly. "Both of you." Angela recovered quickly, pulling Kevin's arm. "Come on, baby. She's turned your uncle against us too. We'll figure this out." As they moved toward the door, Kevin glanced back, conflict written across his features. For a moment I thought he might return, might choose truth over deception. Instead, he squared his shoulders and delivered the final blow. "You deserve that slap for what you've done, for trying to destroy my marriage." They left the door closing with finality behind them. James helped me to a chair, his hands gentle as he examined my face. "It's going to bruise. We should document this, file a police report." I touched my cheekbone, wincing at the tenderness. "Not yet. She's pregnant, James." "Do you believe that—" I considered Angela's performance the perfectly timed revelation. "No, but Kevin does. That's all that matters right now." James knelt before me, his eyes level with mine. "What do you want to do?" I thought about the long game Angela had played, the careful isolation, the systematic undermining of my credibility, the manipulation of my son. She had calculated every move except Marcus's intervention. A child had seen through her deception when adults had failed. "I'm going to fight," I said firmly. "Not just for myself, but for Marcus and Lily. For Kevin, even if he doesn't realize he needs saving." James nodded, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "That's my sister. So what's the next move?" I thought about Angela's elegant neck, about the gold chain that had glinted there at dinner last month, the chain I had been searching for since her first visit to my home. My mother's necklace passed down when I turned 16, the necklace that had represented our family's resilience through generations. "My birthday is next month," I said slowly. "I think it's time for a celebration, one that Angela won't forget." I looked at my reflection in the window, at the darkening mark around my eye. The bruise would fade, but my resolve had crystallized into something unbreakable. Angela had chosen the wrong woman to underestimate. Let her think she'd won this round. The final victory would be mine. My birthday party remained frozen in that moment of revelation. James's words about the necklace hung in the air, words that transformed a piece of jewelry into something far more powerful. "That golden necklace Angela wears," he had said to Kevin, just loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "belonged to your grandmother and your great-grandmother before her, a symbol of survival after domestic violence." I watched Angela's fingers stop their casual caress of the chain. Her confident smile faltered as understanding dawned in her eyes. She had stolen not just jewelry, but a legacy of strength, a talisman passed through generations of women who had faced darkness and emerged intact. Kevin stood beside her, confusion washing over his features. He looked at the necklace, then at the bruise around my eye that makeup couldn't quite conceal. For one hopeful moment, I saw doubt creep into his expression. The armor of denial he had constructed began to show the finest crack. But Angela recovered quickly. Her hand dropped from the necklace, and she tugged Kevin's arm with sudden urgency. "We need to go," she whispered, but the party's strange silence carried her words farther than she intended. "Now, Kevin." They slipped out amid uncomfortable murmurs from my guests. The door closed behind them with a quiet click that somehow felt more final than any slam. Pastor Thomas approached me, his weathered hand gentle on my shoulder. "Gloria, let us pray together for healing in your family." My friends gathered around me in a protective circle. These women and men who had known me for decades, who had attended Michael's funeral, who had celebrated Kevin's graduation and wedding, they had witnessed the bruise on my face and now understood what it meant. Evelyn spoke up, her voice carrying the authority of her 70 years and her decades as an attorney. "James, tell us what we missed. Tell us what's happening to our Gloria." James looked at me silently, asking permission. I nodded, ready for the truth to be fully known. "My sister's daughter-in-law has been systematically trying to take control of Gloria's finances and home," James explained. "With her partner, a financial advisor, with a history of exploiting elderly clients. They've been manipulating Kevin, trying to convince him his mother is becoming incompetent. When Gloria confronted them with evidence of their scheme, Angela struck her." Gasps rippled through the room. Sarah Mitchell, Evelyn's daughter, and my attorney stepped forward. "We've been documenting everything, building a legal case, but we need to be careful. They're already moving toward seeking guardianship." Pastor Thomas shook his head sadly. "To think this beautiful occasion would reveal such darkness." "Not darkness," I said, finding my voice at last. "Clarity. Now everyone knows what we're dealing with. No more shadows, no more doubt." As my friends departed with promises of support and prayers, James stayed behind, helping me clean up the untouched cake and unopened champagne. The presents sat in a colorful pile, a jarring contrast to the somber mood that had descended. "You know," James said as we worked, "I never told you much about our family history." I paused, a stack of plates in my hands. "What do you mean?" James sat heavily in a dining chair, suddenly looking every one of his 63 years. "That necklace means more than you know, more than I've told you." He gestured for me to sit. As twilight gathered outside my windows, my brother shared the story our mother had only told him before her death. Our father wasn't just violent, James began, his voice low. He was dangerous in ways that went beyond the bruises we could see. I remembered our father only in fragments. A booming voice, the smell of whiskey and cigarettes, the way our mother would usher us quietly to our rooms when his car pulled into the driveway. He had died when I was 8, James 10, in what Mother had always called an accident at work. That necklace belonged to Grandma Rose first, James continued. Her husband, our grandfather, was like our father, cruel, possessive. One night he beat her so badly she thought she would die. Instead of cowering, she gathered her courage and left him taking nothing but the clothes on her back and a small golden chain her mother had given her. My fingers touched my throat where that same chain had once rested. She survived on her own, working 3 jobs saving pennies. When she finally had enough, she added a small pendant to the chain, a simple gold disc, a reminder that she was whole and complete on her own. James paused, his eyes distant with memory. When our mother married our father, Grandma Rose gave her the necklace as a warning as much as a gift. If things get bad, she told Mom, this will remind you that you have the strength to leave. I thought of my own marriage to Michael, so different from the legacy of violence that had shadowed our family. Michael had been gentle, supportive, a true partner. We had shared the necklace's history with Kevin when he was old enough to understand, hoping to break the cycle that had haunted previous generations. Mother finally used that strength after Father hit you, James said. That night when you stood between them, your eye swollen shut, that was when she finally found the courage to leave. She wore that necklace every day until she died, then passed it to you. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. And I wore it until Angela came into our lives. Until she stole it, James corrected, knowing exactly what it meant. The revelation landed like a physical blow. How could she know? Because Kevin must have told her, the same way you and Michael told him. He shared a precious family story, and instead of honoring it, she turned it into another weapon. The depth of the betrayal staggered me. Angela hadn't just taken jewelry. She had deliberately stolen a symbol of resistance against exactly the kind of abuse she herself had inflicted. The calculated cruelty of it burned away any lingering doubt about what we were facing. This isn't just about my house anymore, I said, my voice hardening. This is about stopping a cycle of abuse before it claims another generation. I thought of Marcus and Lily growing up watching their father enable Angela's manipulation and violence. I thought of Angela wearing my mother's necklace while plotting to declare me incompetent. The twin wounds of theft and assault fused into something more profound, a call to action that resonated through my entire being. We need to be ready, James said. They'll escalate after tonight. I nodded, newly resolved. Then so will we. James's prediction proved accurate faster than either of us expected. 3 days after my birthday party, a courier delivered an envelope containing court documents. Sarah arrived within the hour to review them with me. They're moving aggressively, she said, spreading the papers across my kitchen table. Petition for guardianship, alleging cognitive decline, inability to manage finances, paranoid accusations against family members. They've included an affidavit from a Dr. Lieberman claiming he's observed signs consistent with early dementia. I've never met any Dr. Lieberman, I said, the unfairness burning in my chest. Of course not. That's what makes this so insidious. In many jurisdictions, the initial hearing happens without the proposed ward present. They're trying to get temporary guardianship established before you can defend yourself. James paced behind us. Can they do that? Get guardianship without her even being evaluated properly? Sarah's expression was grim. It happens more often than you'd think. The system is designed to protect vulnerable adults, but it can be weaponized by those with bad intentions. Fortunately, we anticipated this. She pulled out another set of documents from her briefcase. These are the results of your independent cognitive evaluation from Dr. Maxwell dated last month, plus affidavits from Pastor Thomas, 3 retired colleagues from your school, and your regular physician, all attesting to your complete competence. Relief washed through me. So we're prepared. Yes, but this will still be difficult. Once these proceedings start, they cast a shadow. People begin to doubt to watch for signs of decline. We need to be strategic about how we present you and your case." James stopped pacing. "What about the assault? Shouldn't we file charges?" Sarah considered this. It would certainly strengthen our position to show Angela's tendency toward violence. But without witnesses besides family members with conflicting accounts, it becomes complicated. "We have the recording," James reminded her. "Audio only," Sarah cautioned, "and potentially inadmissible depending on state consent laws. We'll use it if needed, but I'd prefer stronger evidence." I thought about the bruise that was now fading from purple to yellow-green around my eye. What about Marcus? Could he testify about what he's observed? Sarah shook her head slowly. Involving a minor in these proceedings, especially one caught between parents, is problematic. Courts are reluctant to put children in that position. We strategized for hours, anticipating angles of attack, preparing defenses. By evening, we had a comprehensive plan, medical experts, character witnesses, financial records, showing my consistent and prudent management of assets. Sarah filed our response to their petition, including a counterclaim alleging elder abuse and financial exploitation. The legal battle had begun in earnest. What we didn't anticipate was Angela's next move. The call came at midnight, Marcus's voice trembling with an emotion I couldn't immediately identify. "Grandma, can you come get me?" I sat up in bed, instantly alert. "Marcus, what's wrong?" "Mom and Dad are fighting. About me. About you." His voice cracked. "She wants to send me to boarding school in Vermont, right away. Dad says it's too expensive, but she says they'll have the money soon from your house." The casual cruelty of discussing my property in front of Marcus sent a wave of anger through me. "Where are you now, sweetheart?" "In my room. They think I'm asleep." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Grandma, I don't want to go away. I don't want to leave you. Listen to me, Marcus. Pack a small bag with essentials. I'm coming to get you. Wait until they've gone to bed, then text me. I'll park down the street." I had never encouraged Marcus to disobey his parents, but this felt different. This was protection, not defiance. I called James as I dressed, explaining the situation. He insisted on accompanying me. "This could be construed as kidnapping," he warned as we drove through the quiet streets. "He called me for help," I said firmly, "and I have temporary grandparent visitation rights established after Kevin's divorce from Catherine. We're not taking him anywhere inappropriate. He'll stay the night and we'll address this properly in the morning." Marcus was waiting on the darkened porch when we arrived, a backpack clutched to his chest, his lanky frame shivering despite the mild spring night. He climbed into my car silently, his features tight with worry. "Thank you for coming," he whispered as we pulled away. "She was so angry tonight. Said I was turning Dad against her, that I was sneaking around helping you." James glanced back at him from the driver's seat. "You're safe now, buddy. We'll figure this out." At home, I settled Marcus in the guest room that had always been his when he visited. As I tucked him in a ritual he claimed to have outgrown but still seemed to need, he caught my hand. "Grandma, is what she says true? Are you crazy?" The direct question from a child's perspective cut through all pretense. I sat on the edge of his bed, choosing my words carefully. "No, Marcus, I'm not. Angela and her friend Michael want my house and money, and they're trying to make people believe I can't take care of myself anymore." His young face hardened with indignation. "That's not fair. You're the smartest person I know." I smiled at his fierce loyalty. "Thank you. Now try to sleep. Tomorrow we'll call your dad and explain where you are." But explaining proved unnecessary. Kevin arrived at 7 the next morning, pounding on my door with a fury I had rarely seen in my gentle son. "Where is he?" Kevin demanded when I opened the door. "You had no right, Mom. No right to take him." "I didn't take him," I corrected calmly. "He called me for help because Angela wants to send him away to boarding school, against his wishes, against yours, from what I understand." Kevin's anger faltered. "He told you about that. It was just a discussion, not a decision." A discussion that frightened him enough to run away rather than face it. "Kevin, what's happening to you? To our family?" For a moment, my son's facade cracked, revealing the uncertain man beneath. "I don't know anymore, Mom. Everything's gotten so complicated." "Dad?" Marcus appeared behind me, still in his pajamas. "Are you mad at me?" Kevin's expression softened as he looked at his son. Nobody. I was worried. You can't just disappear in the middle of the night. I left a note, Marcus protested, on my desk. Kevin frowned. There wasn't any note when Angela checked your room. The implication hung between us. Had Angela hidden the note to escalate the situation, to make it appear I had taken Marcus without warning? Kevin, I said carefully, I think we need to talk, all of us, about what's really happening. Before Kevin could respond, his phone rang. He checked the screen, his expression tightening. It's Angela. I have to take this. He stepped onto the porch for privacy, but his voice carried through the partially open door. Yes, he's here. No, Mom, didn't Angela calm down. He left a note, you must have missed it. A pause as she responded. Kevin's shoulders hunched as if absorbing a physical blow. I understand you're upset, but threatening to know, please don't call them yet. Just give me an hour to bring him home. Another pause, longer this time. Angela, be reasonable. He's with his grandmother, not some stranger. Kevin's voice sharpened with rare defiance. I said no. I'll handle this my way. He hung up and turned back to us, his expression troubled. She wants to call the police, report Marcus as missing and you as having taken him without permission. That's ridiculous, James interjected. He came here voluntarily, left a note, and you've confirmed his safety. Kevin ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar from his childhood that it made my heart ache. She's not thinking clearly. The stress of the pregnancy, the legal situation with Mom, it's all too much. I exchanged a glance with James. Angela's fictional pregnancy continued to serve as both shield and weapon. Kevin, I said gently, when is Angela due? My son blinked, caught off guard by the simple question. What? Her due date. When is the baby coming? I'm not sure of the exact date. She's handling all the medical appointments. James stepped forward. Has she had ultrasounds? Morning sickness? Any of the usual pregnancy symptoms? Kevin's confusion deepened. Why are you interrogating me about this? Because I said my heart breaking for what I was about to do. I don't believe she's pregnant, Kevin. I think it's another manipulation, another lie to keep you from questioning her behavior. The doubt that flickered across his face told me this wasn't the first time the thought had occurred to him, but denial reasserted itself quickly. That's absurd. Why would she lie about something so important? To control you, James said bluntly. To keep you from believing your mother about the financial scheme, to explain away her mood swings and erratic behavior. Kevin's jaw tightened. I'm taking Marcus home now. This conversation is over. Marcus clutched my hand. Dad, please. I don't want to go back there, not with her being so angry. Kevin knelt before his son, his voice gentling. Marcus, I promise you won't be sent away to any boarding school, not unless you want to go, but you need to come home now. We'll work this out as a family. The word family seemed to hang in the air between us, its meaning stretched and distorted beyond recognition. This fractured group of people bound by blood and broken promises, was this still a family? Marcus looked at me seeking guidance. I nodded slightly, knowing this battle couldn't be won by keeping him from his father. The court would never look favorably on that approach. Call me any time, I whispered as I hugged him goodbye. Day or night. As they left, James placed a hand on my shoulder. This is escalating faster than we anticipated. Angela's willing to involve police over a child seeking safety with family. We need to adjust our strategy. Sarah agreed when we called her later that morning. If she's threatening police involvement over Marcus staying with you, we need to document this pattern of using authorities to intimidate. I'm also concerned about her pushing to send Marcus away. Could it be related to the inheritance? I asked, remembering something I'd discovered in Michael's papers after his death. Michael's will leaves the house to Marcus when I'm gone, not to Kevin. Michael wanted to ensure his grandson would always have security. Sarah's voice sharpened with interest. Did Kevin and Angela know about this provision? I assumed Kevin knew. Michael discussed it with him before finalizing the will. As for Angela, I'm not sure. If they discovered this recently, it could explain the sudden push to remove Marcus from the picture. Without him in the family, they could potentially challenge the inheritance. The calculated cruelty staggered me. to send a child away from his home and family for financial gain. What kind of person could conceive such a plan? "What should we do?" I asked. "Add a motion for emergency grandparent visitation rights to our filing. If they're trying to isolate Marcus from you, we need court-protected access. And Gloria," Sarah added, her voice softening, "prepare yourself. Things will likely get worse before they get better." For a week, silence descended. Kevin didn't call. Marcus sent occasional texts when he could do so privately. Angela made no further threats about police involvement. The legal proceedings continued their slow advance toward a hearing date. Then one rainy Tuesday afternoon, Kevin appeared on my doorstep, soaked from the downpour, his expression haunted. "Mom," he said simply, "I need to talk to you." I ushered him inside, suppressing the urge to wrap him in towels as I would have when he was small. This tall man with troubled eyes needed something different from me now. "What's happened?" I asked, leading him to the kitchen where a pot of coffee still warmed on the stove. Kevin sat heavily at the table water dripping from his hair onto the wooden surface. "I've been watching Angela. After what you said about the pregnancy, I started paying attention, noticing things." Hope stirred in my chest, but I kept my expression neutral. "What things?" "She has no prenatal vitamins, no doctor appointments on her calendar, no changes to her diet." His voice dropped. "She drinks wine when she thinks I'm not looking." I poured coffee into 2 mugs, giving him space to continue. "Yesterday I checked our joint account. Large withdrawals every week. Money I can't account for. And last night I followed her when she said she was meeting her sister." The pain in his voice told me what he'd discovered before he spoke the words. "She met a man at the Westview Hotel, Michael Trent, the same man from the text messages on the phone Marcus found." Kevin's hands trembled around the mug. "They kissed in the lobby, Mom. There's no misunderstanding that." I reached across the table, covering his hand with mine. "I'm so sorry, Kevin." He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "All this time I thought you were confused, paranoid." "I defended her when she hit you." His voice broke. "My own mother. I let her hurt you." "You were manipulated by someone very skilled at deception," I said gently. "Someone who knew exactly how to use your love and loyalty against you." Kevin shook his head. "That's no excuse. I should have believed you, should have questioned her story." "What will you do now?" I asked, keeping my tone free from judgment or pressure. "I don't know." He looked lost, a man whose foundations had crumbled beneath him. "I can't confront her yet, not until I understand the full scope of what she's done, what they've done together." "The guardianship hearing is in 3 weeks," I reminded him. "They're still proceeding with their plan to have me declared incompetent." Kevin nodded resolve, hardening his features. "I need evidence, proof that will stand up in court. Can James help me?" "Of course. He's been gathering information for months." "And Marcus," Kevin continued, "I need to protect him. If they're willing to send him away just to secure an inheritance." He couldn't finish the thought. We talked for hours, piecing together the fragments of Angela's deception. Kevin shared details that filled gaps in our understanding conversations. He'd overheard documents, he'd glimpsed patterns of behavior that now made sense in light of their true intentions. As evening approached, Kevin prepared to leave. "I can't stay away too long. She'll get suspicious." "Be careful," I urged, fear clutching at my heart. "If Angela realizes you're investigating her, I know I'll be discreet." He hugged me, a real embrace for the first time in years. "I'm sorry, Mom. So sorry for everything." "We'll get through this," I promised. "Together." As I watched him drive away, I prayed that my words would prove true. 2 days later, the school called. Marcus had not arrived for classes, and the attendance office had received notice that he was transferring to another district. I immediately contacted Sarah, who filed an emergency motion with the court. "This is exactly what we feared," she said. "They're trying to remove him from familiar surroundings, isolate him from support systems." James drove me to Kevin's house, where no one answered our repeated knocking. Neighbors reported seeing Angela leave with luggage early that morning. Marcus and Lily had been with her. Kevin's car remained in the driveway. "Something's wrong," I insisted. "Kevin wouldn't let her take Marcus without telling me, not after our conversation." James called the local police requesting a welfare check. When the officers arrived, they found Kevin inside unconscious from what appeared to be a sleeping pill overdose. An empty bottle of Ambien sat on the nightstand beside a tumbler that smelled of scotch. The hospital pumped his stomach and monitored him overnight. When he regained consciousness the next morning, his first words were, "She took them. She took the kids." And the police treated it as a domestic issue. A mother taking her children on a trip was hardly criminal. But Kevin filed a report alleging Angela had drugged him without his knowledge, and the investigation shifted. Angela's phone went straight to voicemail. Her sister claimed to know nothing of their whereabouts. The children's passports were missing from the family safe. Fear gripped me like a physical illness. If Angela fled the country with Marcus and Lily, we might never recover them. The courts moved with agonizing slowness, requiring proof of danger before issuing emergency orders. Then, unexpectedly, salvation came from the most unlikely source, Michael Trent. James had continued monitoring Trent's activities, including his financial transactions. When a large sum moved from his account to purchase tickets to Grand Cayman, James alerted authorities. Customs officials intercepted Angela and the children at the Miami International Airport hours before their scheduled departure. Marcus and Lily were temporarily placed in protective custody while the situation was sorted out. Kevin, still recovering from his ordeal, was granted supervised visitation. Angela was released on bail, her passport confiscated with orders to remain in the state pending investigation. The attempted flight transformed our legal landscape. The guardianship petition against me was temporarily suspended as the court focused on the more pressing custody and potential criminal matters. Sarah filed for emergency grandparent custody on my behalf, citing the unstable home environment and potential flight risk. 3 days after their interception at the airport, I was granted temporary custody of Marcus and Lily. They arrived at my home accompanied by a social worker, Lily clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit Marcus, carrying both their backpacks. "Grandma," Lily said, her 7-year-old voice serious. "Mommy said we were going on vacation, but she didn't pack my swimming suit. And she was crying when she thought I was sleeping." I hugged them both, feeling their small bodies trembling against mine. "You're safe now. We'll figure everything out." That night, as I tucked them into beds, in rooms that had waited empty for too long, Marcus asked the question that had clearly been troubling him. "Grandma, what's going to happen to Dad and Mom?" I sat beside him, smoothing his dark hair back from his forehead. "Your dad is getting better. He'll visit tomorrow. As for Angela, that's complicated. The courts will decide." Marcus nodded, wise beyond his years. "She's not really my mom, you know. Not like Mom is. Catherine is my real mom." "I know, sweetheart. Angela never wanted me around anyway." His voice held a child's matter-of-fact acceptance of painful truth. "She told Dad once that I was just baggage from his first marriage." The casual cruelty of it burned in my chest. "You are not baggage, Marcus. You are a treasure. Never forget that." As the children slept, I sat in my living room with James planning our next steps. Kevin would be discharged tomorrow. Angela remained free on bail, her location monitored by an ankle bracelet. Michael Trent had vanished. His accounts emptied hours after Angela's arrest. "We're winning the battles," James observed. "But the war isn't over. Angela still has resources, connections, and she's desperate now." I gazed at the family photos lining my mantle, generations of Washingtons, looking back at me with the same determined eyes. "Let her come. This family has survived worse than one greedy woman." James smiled slightly. "That's the sister I remember, the one who stood up to our father when no one else would." I touched my throat, feeling the phantom weight of the necklace that should have been there. "I want it back, James. Not just the house, not just the money. I want my mother's necklace." "We'll get it back," he promised. "All of it." 2 days later, as Kevin recovered in my guest room and the children settled into a tentative new routine, a courier delivered an envelope addressed to me. Inside lay a single sheet of paper with Angela's flowing handwriting, "The necklace for my freedom. Come alone to the boathouse at Lakeside Park tomorrow at sunset. Tell no one if you want to see it again." I held the note to the light, examining its implications from every angle. A trap, certainly, but also an opportunity. After all these months of reactive defense, Angela had finally made a critical error. She had revealed something important. That necklace meant something to her too, something worth risking her precarious freedom to negotiate over. I didn't show the note to James or Kevin. Some confrontations needed to happen woman to woman, face to face. Some reckonings couldn't be delegated or shared. Tomorrow at sunset, the necklace of trust would come home one way or another. Lakeside Park gathered the sunset in its waters, each ripple carrying fragments of amber and gold. I'd visited this place countless times through the years with Michael on our early dates, pushing Kevin on the swings as a toddler, feeding ducks with Marcus and Lily last summer. Now its familiar paths felt charged with danger as I made my way toward the boathouse alone. I hadn't told James about Angela's note, not Kevin recovering in my guest room, not Sarah, who would have immediately contacted the authorities. Some confrontations required privacy, woman-to-woman predator and prey meeting on equal ground at last. The boathouse stood silhouetted against the darkening sky, its weathered boards silver gray in the fading light. I paused at the edge of the gravel path, scanning for movement, for the glint of watching eyes. Nothing stirred except the gentle lap of water against the dock and the distant call of a nightbird beginning its evening hunt. "I didn't think you'd come alone." Angela's voice drifted from the shadows inside the boathouse. I squared my shoulders and stepped forward, pushing open the creaking door. She stood against the far wall, still beautiful, despite the strain marking her features. The ankle monitor required by her bail conditions peeked from beneath designer jeans. Her hair was pulled back severely, emphasizing the sharpness of her cheekbones, the calculation in her eyes. Around her throat gleamed my mother's necklace, the simple gold chain, catching what little light filtered through the dusty windows. "You're wearing it," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Even now." Angela's fingers touched the chain reflexively. "It's just jewelry." We both know that's not true. I took another step into the dimly lit space, keeping my distance, but refusing to show fear. "That necklace has history, power. You wouldn't have stolen it otherwise." A flicker of something surprised perhaps crossed her face. "Kevin told me its story, a family heirloom passed down through generations of strong women who survived abuse." Her lips curled slightly. "How ironic that it ended up with me." "Nothing ironic about it. You recognized its value the moment you heard its history. That's why you took it to possess the strength it represents." Angela laughed, the sound hollow in the empty boathouse. "Such drama. I took it because it's gold and it's pretty. Nothing more complicated than that." "Then why summon me here? Why risk violating your bail conditions over just jewelry?" Her composure slipped briefly. "Because it's the only leverage I have left. Your precious son has turned against me. My freedom hangs by a thread. Even Michael has disappeared with our emergency funds." I noted the bitterness when she mentioned Michael Trent, another betrayal in her collection. "What do you want, Angela? Drop the charges. All of them. Convince Kevin to withdraw his complaint about the drugging. Tell the prosecutors you won't cooperate with their elder abuse investigation." Her voice hardened. "Do that, and I'll give you back your worthless necklace and leave town. Everyone gets what they want." The arrogance of it, that she believed a piece of metal could buy her freedom after everything she'd done, almost made me laugh. "And if I refuse?" Angela's smile returned cold and knowing. "Then you'll never see this necklace again. I'll destroy it before surrendering it. And I'll make sure everyone knows your family's dirty secrets before this is over." "What secrets?" I asked, genuinely curious about what fabrications she might have prepared. About Kevin's gambling debts, about Michael's affairs during your marriage, about James's questionable business practices. She tilted her head. "I've been collecting information for years, Gloria. Insurance policies, I called them. Now it's time to cash them in." So that was her plan. Blackmail built on lies. The desperation of it almost inspired pity. "You know what I've realized about you, Angela?" I took another step forward. "You understand the price of everything but the value of nothing. That necklace around your neck isn't powerful because it's gold. It's powerful because of what it represents: survival, resilience, truth, passed from mother to daughter. You can wear it, but you'll never possess what it truly stands for." Anger flashed across her face. Save the Hallmark sentiments. Do we have a deal or not? I smiled then, the smile my students had once called my principal look, the one that said I knew something they didn't. We don't have a deal, Angela, because you've miscalculated in one critical way. I reached into my pocket and withdrew my phone. I'm not alone. The boathouse door opened behind me. James entered first, followed by 2 police officers. Angela's eyes widened with genuine fear for the first time. Recording our conversation was the easy part, I explained, holding up my phone. The hard part was convincing the district attorney to approve a sting operation for someone already on bail, but attempted blackmail and witness tampering made it worth their while. You set me up, Angela whispered, her hand clutching the necklace. No, Angela, you set yourself up, every step of the way. The officers approached her, explaining that she was being arrested for violation of bail conditions and new charges of attempted witness tampering. As one officer recited her rights, the other carefully removed the necklace from around her neck. Angela's composure finally crumbled. You don't understand what it's like, she said, her voice breaking. To come from nothing, to have to fight for every scrap of security. That house, your perfect life, you never had to struggle for any of it. I thought of my childhood with an abusive father, of losing Michael, of working 2 jobs while raising Kevin alone. Of all the invisible struggles Angela had never bothered to learn about because she'd been too busy plotting to steal what I'd built. You're wrong, I said simply, but that doesn't excuse what you've done. As they led her away, the officer handed me the necklace. I felt its familiar weight in my palm, the warm metal still carrying the heat from Angela's skin. Generations of women's hopes and fears of survival and strength returned to my keeping at last. James placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. You took a terrible risk coming here alone, Gloria. I was never alone, I replied, clasping the necklace around my own neck where it belonged. I had all the women who wore this before me. Their strength became mine. Hassam. The courthouse stood imposing against the morning sky, its stone columns and broad steps designed to intimidate those seeking justice within its walls. I climbed those steps slowly, deliberately, flanked by James and Sarah Mitchell, with Kevin following behind. 3 weeks had passed since Angela's arrest at the boathouse. She remained in custody, her bail revoked due to the attempted blackmail and flight risk. Michael Trent was still missing, though authorities had frozen what assets they could locate. The investigation had expanded to include 3 other elderly clients who had lost significant portions of their savings to similar schemes. Today's hearing would address multiple issues: the now suspended guardianship petition Angela had filed against me, my countersuit alleging elder abuse and financial exploitation, and the matter of Marcus and Lily's permanent custody. Though criminal charges against Angela would be handled separately, today's outcome would shape our family's future in profound ways. Remember, Sarah advised as we approached the courtroom, remain calm no matter what their attorney alleges. Judge Winters has reviewed our documentation thoroughly, but courtroom demeanor matters. I nodded, touching the necklace beneath my conservative blue blouse. Its presence centered me, a physical reminder of why this fight mattered beyond just my own freedom and security. Inside, we took our places at the plaintiff's table. Across the aisle, Angela sat beside her attorney, a sharp-featured woman whose expensive suit and perfect posture telegraphed confidence. Angela had exchanged her designer clothes for a modest gray dress that suggested humility and contrition. The performance had begun. As Judge Winters entered and proceedings commenced, I studied Angela's profile. Without makeup and styled hair, she looked younger, more vulnerable, precisely the image her attorney wanted to project. The transformation was remarkable, her previous predatory confidence replaced by downcast eyes and nervous hands. If I hadn't experienced her manipulation firsthand, I might have been fooled. The guardian ad litem appointed to represent Marcus and Lily's interests presented her findings first. Her recommendation supported my petition for primary custody of both children with supervised visitation for Kevin as he continued treatment for depression and gambling addiction issues that had emerged fully during the investigation. Next came expert testimony from the geriatric specialist who had evaluated me, confirming my complete competence and raising concerns about the questionable evaluation conducted by Angela's chosen doctor. Financial forensic experts detailed the systematic attempts to access my accounts, the falsified documents, the elaborate plan to declare me incompetent and liquidate my assets. Throughout it all, I maintained the composed demeanor Sarah had advised. But when Angela's attorney began her cross-examination, staying calm became considerably more difficult. "Mrs. Washington," she began, her voice carrying just the right note of sympathetic concern, "isn't it true that you have a history of making accusations against your daughter-in-law, of inserting yourself inappropriately into your son's marriage?" "No, that is not true," I replied evenly. "Yet you've repeatedly claimed Mrs. Washington was manipulating your son, that she had stolen family jewelry, that she was plotting against you. Doesn't this suggest a pattern of paranoid thinking?" Sarah objected immediately. "Your Honor, counsel is mischaracterizing factual reports of documented criminal behavior as paranoia." Sustained, Judge Winters ruled. "Counselor, the evidence supports Mrs. Washington's claims. Move on." Angela's attorney shifted tactics. "Mrs. Washington, who witnessed the alleged assault you claim took place in your kitchen. Anyone besides your brother who clearly has a vested interest in supporting your narrative." Before I could answer, Kevin stood up. "I was there. I saw my wife strike my mother." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. This wasn't part of the planned testimony. Kevin had been scheduled to testify later, and only about the drugging incident and Angela's flight attempt with the children. "Your Honor," Kevin continued, his voice gaining strength, "I would like to make a statement to the court about what I witnessed throughout my marriage to Angela Desmond." Judge Winters considered this unexpected development. "This is irregular, but given the circumstances, I'll allow it. Please step forward, Mr. Washington." Kevin moved to the witness stand, was sworn in, and faced the courtroom with shoulders squared. "I was a coward," he began simply. "When Angela struck my mother, I didn't defend her. I chose to believe lies instead of the woman who raised me. I let myself be manipulated because it was easier than facing the truth." He described the gradual isolation from friends and family, the subtle undermining of his confidence, the exploitation of his gambling addiction and depression, how Angela had used his vulnerability to turn him against his mother, how she had fabricated a pregnancy to secure his loyalty. "The worst part," Kevin said, his voice breaking slightly, "was watching her mistreat Marcus, a child from my previous marriage, whom she saw as an obstacle. She convinced me to consider sending him to boarding school against his will, simply to remove him as an heir to my mother's property." Angela stared straight ahead throughout Kevin's testimony, her face impassive. Only the whiteness of her knuckles as she gripped the table edge betrayed her rage. When Kevin finished, Judge Winters thanked him and called a brief recess. In the hallway, I embraced my son, feeling the trembling in his tall frame. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. "I should have done it sooner," he replied. "So much damage could have been prevented." When court resumed, Angela's attorney attempted to discredit Kevin's testimony, suggesting his gambling addiction and mental health issues made him an unreliable witness. But the momentum had shifted decisively against them. Judge Winters delivered her ruling with measured clarity. The guardianship petition against me was dismissed with prejudice. My countersuit for elder abuse and financial exploitation was upheld with damages to be determined in a separate hearing. Primary custody of Marcus and Lily was granted to me, with Kevin allowed supervised visitation, transitioning to shared custody pending completion of his treatment program. As for Angela, the judge referred multiple potential criminal charges to the district attorney's office for prosecution, including elder abuse, financial exploitation, assault, attempted kidnapping, and fraud. This court has seen many troubling cases of elder exploitation, Judge Winters concluded, but few as calculated and comprehensive as this one. Mrs. Desmond Washington's actions represent a profound breach of familial trust and a predatory approach to vulnerable individuals that this court cannot overlook or excuse. Angela showed no reaction to the ruling. As court officers approached to return her to custody, she finally looked at me directly. No pretense remained in her gaze, only cold hatred and something else, something that might have been fear. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered for statements. Sarah handled most questions professionally, explaining the broader significance of the case for elder rights protection. When asked how I felt about the outcome, I considered my answer carefully. "Today isn't about winning or losing," I said finally. "It's about truth prevailing over deception, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, whether they're children like Marcus and Lily or seniors vulnerable to exploitation. The work of healing our family has only just begun." As cameras flashed and questions continued, I felt the weight of my mother's necklace against my skin. A reminder that some battles must be fought not just for ourselves, but for those who came before us and those who will follow. Summer bloomed across my garden as Marcus and Lily settled into their new routine. The initial awkwardness of our arrangement had gradually yielded to something approaching normalcy: breakfasts at the kitchen table, afternoons tending the vegetable garden I'd expanded for their benefit, evenings of board games and shared reading. Kevin visited 3 times weekly, his participation in therapy and gambling addiction recovery bringing slow but steady improvement. The children approached these visits with cautious optimism. Trust once broken required patience to rebuild. One warm Saturday, as Marcus helped me harvest tomatoes, he asked the question I'd been expecting for weeks. "Grandma, is Dad ever going to live with us?" I set down my basket and gave him my full attention. "What would you like to happen, Marcus?" He considered this seriously, his 12-year-old face solemn beneath his baseball cap. "I miss Dad. The real Dad, not the sad one who let Angela be mean to everyone." "Your father is working very hard to become that real dad again," I explained. "The therapist says he's making excellent progress. But will we ever be a normal family again?" The innocent complexity of his question caught at my heart. "Normal comes in many forms, sweetheart. Our family has changed, but that doesn't mean it can't be happy and healthy." From the porch, Lily called out that Kevin had arrived for his visit. Marcus brightened immediately, abandoning tomatoes to race toward his father. Kevin looked better than he had in years, the haunted expression replaced by clear eyes and relaxed shoulders. He carried a small wrapped package that he handed to me after hugging both children. "Happy birthday, Mom. A few months late, but still." Inside the simple wrapping lay a silver picture frame containing a photograph I'd never seen before: Michael and me on our wedding day, candid and laughing, surrounded by my mother, James, and other family members now gone. The frame was engraved, "Family Endures." "Where did you find this?" I asked, touching the image of Michael's smiling face. "In Dad's old files. I've been sorting through them, trying to understand everything better." Kevin's voice softened. "There was a letter with it. For you. Written the year before he died." He handed me an envelope yellowed slightly with age, addressed in Michael's precise handwriting, "For Gloria, when you need to remember." Later that night, after the children were asleep and Kevin had returned to his apartment, I opened the letter in the privacy of my bedroom. "My dearest Gloria, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you found yourself facing challenges I couldn't have anticipated. Forgive me for not being there to stand beside you. Throughout our marriage, I've marveled at your strength. The world sees your gentleness and assumes its weakness. They don't recognize the steel beneath the silk. But I know. I've always known. Whatever difficulties you're facing now, remember this. You come from a lineage of women who refuse to be broken. Your mother taught you how to stand firm when the world tries to push you down. You taught Kevin the same, though. As I write this, I worry he hasn't fully absorbed the lesson. I've arranged certain protections in my will and financial planning. The house will eventually pass to Marcus, a decision made to ensure family legacy continues through generations. Kevin knows this, though I fear he may not fully understand my reasoning. Guide him if necessary. The necklace your mother gave you carries more than gold. It carries the wisdom of generations. Keep it close or pass it on when the time is right. I love you beyond words, beyond time. Your strength has always been my inspiration. Forever yours." Michael, tears blurred the familiar handwriting. I touched the necklace at my throat, feeling a connection across time to Michael, to my mother, to all those who had worn it before me. Outside my window, the moon cast silver light across my garden. The same moon that had witnessed generations of my family's struggles and triumphs. The same light that would illuminate my grandchildren's path forward. The criminal proceedings against Angela stretched through fall and into winter. Each hearing brought new revelations about the extent of her schemes, not just against me, but against Harold Fisher before his death, and two other elderly individuals Michael Trent had introduced her to. Michael himself was eventually apprehended in Mexico, attempting to establish a new identity with falsified documents. His cooperation with authorities in exchange for leniency revealed the calculated nature of their partnership and implicated Angela in crimes dating back nearly a decade. I attended each court session not from vindictiveness, but from determination to see justice served. Angela's attorney pursued every available delaying tactic and procedural challenge, but the evidence against her proved insurmountable. On a snowy December morning, the judge delivered Angela's sentence 15 years for elder abuse, fraud, assault, attempted kidnapping, and various financial crimes. Michael received 8 years for his cooperative plea agreement. As court officers led Angela away, she glanced back at me one final time. The beautiful mask had fallen, completely revealing the emptiness beneath. I felt no triumph in her downfall, only a profound sadness for the waste of a life that could have been directed toward creation instead of destruction. Outside the courthouse, snow fell in gentle swirls, muffling the city sounds. Sarah zipped her briefcase closed with satisfaction. "It's finally over," she said. "You can move forward now." "Not over," I corrected gently. "Just changing form. We still have healing to do." James drove us home through the winter landscape. The familiar streets of my neighborhood, draped in white, looked fresh and clean, a canvas awaiting new stories. At home, Kevin had prepared lunch with the children. The dining room table was set with my good china, a small celebration of the chapter's conclusion. Marcus had made place cards with careful penmanship. Lily had arranged pine branches and red berries in a centerpiece. As we gathered around the table, James, Kevin, Marcus, Lily, Evelyn, and Pastor Thomas, I felt the weight of the past year begin to lift. The shadows remained, but no longer dominated our days. "Before we eat," Pastor Thomas said, "I believe Gloria might want to say a few words." All eyes turned to me. I touched the necklace that had returned to its rightful place, drawing strength from its familiar presence. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning," I said. "Our family has been tested in ways I never imagined. We've lost trust and found it again. We've faced darkness and emerged stronger." I looked at Marcus and Lily, their young faces solemn with understanding beyond their years. At Kevin, slowly rebuilding his life with honesty and purpose. At James, my steadfast protector since childhood. Today, we reclaim our story. Not as victims, but as survivors, not defined by what was done to us, but by how we responded, by the love that held us together when everything tried to pull us apart. Pastor Thomas nodded approval. Amen to that. As we shared the meal Kevin had prepared, conversation flowed easily. Marcus's science project, Lily's dance recital, James's plans for partial retirement. Ordinary topics made extraordinary by the journey required to return to such normalcy. Later, as twilight gathered, I stood alone in my garden. The roses slept beneath winter's blanket, waiting for spring's resurrection. Like them, our family had endured a season of dormancy, of apparent death. Like them, we would bloom again when the time was right. My 66th birthday arrived on a perfect spring day. The garden bloomed in celebration roses, unfurling alongside the vegetables Marcus had carefully tended. Inside the house hummed with preparations as Kevin and the children arranged food and decorations. So much had changed in a year. Kevin had completed his treatment program and now shared custody of the children, spending weekends and several weeknights in the apartment he'd rented 3 blocks away. He had started a small graphic design business that showed promising growth. The gambling addiction that Angela had exploited remained in remission one day at a time. Marcus had entered 7th grade with renewed confidence, his academic performance reflecting his emotional recovery. Lily had worked through her confusion about Angela's absence with a child psychologist, gradually understanding that families could change shape without losing love. I had returned to part-time consulting for the school district, finding renewed purpose in mentoring young administrators. The experience of fighting for my autonomy had also inspired me to become an advocate for elder rights, speaking at community centers and retirement homes about recognizing and preventing exploitation. As evening approached, guests began to arrive, not just family but friends who had stood beside us throughout the ordeal. Evelyn and her daughter Sarah, Pastor Thomas and his wife, former colleagues from my teaching days, James and his new lady friend Helen, whom he'd met at a community garden project. The dining room table couldn't accommodate everyone, so we spread into the living room and onto the back porch. Laughter and conversation filled every corner of the home that had almost been taken from me, the home that now felt more precious for having been defended. After dinner, Kevin clinked his glass for attention. "I'd like to propose a toast," he said, his voice steady with newfound confidence, "to my mother, Gloria Washington, who taught me what real strength looks like." Glasses raised around the room. In the warm light, I saw not pity or concern in my friend's eyes, but genuine respect. The invisibility that often shadows women past 60 had been replaced by recognition of the power that comes with age and experience. When the guests had departed and only family remained, I gathered Marcus and Lily in the living room. Kevin and James joined us, sensing something important was about to happen. "I have something special to share with you both," I told my grandchildren. From a velvet box, I withdrew my mother's necklace. "This necklace has been in our family for 4 generations," I explained, holding it where the light caught the simple gold chain and disc. "It belonged to your great-great-grandmother, who wore it as a symbol of her freedom after escaping an abusive marriage. She passed it to my grandmother, who gave it to my mother, who gave it to me." Marcus and Lily listened with rapt attention, understanding the significance beyond the metal's value. The tradition has been to pass it to a daughter when she turns 16 as a reminder of the strength that runs in our family's blood. But traditions can evolve. I turned to Marcus. "You were the one who helped bring this necklace home, who recognized Angela's deception when adults couldn't see it." I removed a small object from the velvet box, a simple gold cufflink fashioned from the same gold as the necklace. "I had this made for you, Marcus. A piece of the same gold to remind you that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it's standing firm. Sometimes it's asking for help. Always it's telling the truth even when it's difficult." Marcus accepted the cufflink with solemn dignity, his eyes bright with emotion. To Lily, I presented a delicate gold bracelet. "This is for you to wear now, my darling. When you turn 16, you'll receive the necklace itself. Until then, let this remind you that you come from a line of survivors, women who refused to be erased." As I clasped the bracelet around Lily's small wrist, I thought of all the women who had worn pieces of this gold before us, their struggles, their triumphs, their legacy flowing through time to reach this moment. Kevin watched with glistening eyes. "Dad would be proud," he said softly, "of all of us." Later, after the children had gone to bed, I stood on my back porch watching fireflies begin their evening dance above the garden. James joined me, bringing cups of coffee. "Quite a year," he observed, leaning against the railing beside me. "Quite a life," I amended with a smile. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if Angela had succeeded, if we hadn't stopped her? I considered this feeling the weight of the necklace against my skin. Sometimes. But then I remember what Mother used to say, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire." James nodded, understanding the truth of it. "Our family's fire burned pretty hot this past year." "And look at the steel it produced." I gestured toward the house where my son and grandchildren slept peacefully. Kevin finding his strength, Marcus discovering his voice, even Lily learning that love survives change. "And you," James added, "finding a new purpose in helping others avoid what happened to you." The fireflies multiplied their brief lights, illuminating the darkening garden in patterns that seemed almost like messages. Generations of insects continuing an ancient dance, just as generations of my family had passed down strength and wisdom. I touched the necklace one final time before going inside. "We are not just survivors," I whispered to the night. "We are the ones who pass on the light." In my garden, the roses my mother had taught me to tend continued their cycle of growth, dormancy, and rebirth. In my home, the family I had fought to protect slept beneath the roof I had defended. In my heart, the legacy of all the women who had worn my necklace lived on, their courage becoming mine, their wisdom guiding me forward. Not just survivors, architects of a future where truth prevailed over deception, where age brought power rather than vulnerability, where the golden thread of family love remained unbroken despite all attempts to sever it. The necklace of trust had come home at last.